Let's get rolling on a Wednesday. Glasses in session. We go to the Glasser guest line and check in with Pat Perry of the Tour Junkies. Make sure you guys are following the Tour Junkies on X at Tour_Junkies. Pat, like you were saying, man, right before we hopped on air, it's kind of crazy to think that this is the year's final major. We've been previewing just about all these together. Open is one of my favorites, just watching the link style golf, waking up early. Do you have the alarm set for tomorrow morning, Pat? Or are you one of the guys that kind of falls asleep in front of the TV and just wakes up and watch golf?
You know, it's interesting. I'll probably have it set for about 6 a.m., but what'll happen is I'll wake up at like 2 a.m. when they're kind of teeing off, or 3 a.m., so I'll just wake up throughout the night. But right. I'll be in front of the TV for good about 6:30 a.m. So yeah. I can't wait. It's literally one of my favorite majors of the year. I'm from Augusta, so I love the Masters, but this is the next favorite for me. I love it.
I'm with you, man. Masters and the Open, my two favorites. Let's talk about Royal Portrush. They played here back in 2019 when Shane Lowry was the winner. Could be a lot of weather this week, Pat, which obviously could make a big difference. What's the handicap this week when looking at Royal Portrush?
Well, there's a few things, and I'll get to the weather here in just a second. You know, I think when you're looking at the type player that can win here, it's really like any links course. You want the great ball strikers, the guys that can really control their ball in the wind and the weather. You want guys that are good around the greens. They're going to get themselves in all kinds of weird positions around these greens, and the greens are really the story here at Royal Portrush. They got a lot of undulation, so around the greens is very important. And then I think you got to be pretty accurate off the tee. You just don't want to have a big miss off the tee, because then you're really going to be in trouble. And we have boots on the ground, and they're really kind of saying distance isn't going to be quite as much of a factor as the accuracy is. So that's kind of more of what I'm looking for. And then when it comes to the weather, we're actually hearing that it's really just so hard to predict this week, and they've got it wrong actually 2 of the 3 days that they've been practicing there. So it's kind of hard to say, well, is there going to be a weather wave? Because the weather's just got it wrong. As a matter of fact, Padraig Harrington told one of our folks over there, he doesn't even check the weather apps. So a guy that's, won some majors, has a lot of experience over there, is telling us, I don't really even check the weather. So yeah, if we really get a good read on what the advantage might be, then we could look at it. But right now, it's just really hard to predict over there how the weather is right now.
So for you, Pat, like when you were handicapping this week, because I know a lot of the talk over the last couple of days was it feels like guys that are in that morning Thursday wave, afternoon Friday wave could have a little bit of advantage, maybe target people that are teeing off in those time groups. That wasn't a factor for you at all? Like you didn't stay away from anybody who was maybe PM Thursday, AM Friday, or anything like that just because of how unpredictable the weather can be?
PJ, I would say that if there's somebody that I'm kind of iffy on, I would probably go more with that weather advantage that you're talking about, and maybe just come off of them a little bit. But as far as my favorites that I really like, it's not really a huge factor for me. I'm just not really looking at it quite as much. So I would say, yeah, if you really like a guy, you're really on him, I would not pay as much attention to that weather wave. I wouldn't let it, sway you from making that bet on him, whether it's a placement or an outright. But if you got a guy you're kind of iffy on, I'd probably throw him out.
Love it. Pat, one of the reasons I do love the Open Championship is because it feels like it's maybe the most wide open of all the majors. We consistently see guys in their 40s, maybe even their 50s, compete in this event. You just talked about you're looking more so accuracy over distance this week. It's kind of the way a lot of these Opens go, especially if there's weather. So you look at any of the older guys in their 40s, mid-40s, late 40s, anything like that, any of the older guys that made your card this week that you like at Portrush?
Well, I think that when you look at some of the older guys, we have some that have really shown some form. One I just mentioned, Padraig Harrington. He just won the U.S. Senior Open just a few weeks ago back in June, and he's a guy that has a lot of experience on these golf courses. So I think he's one that you could look at, maybe as a top 20 or top 40, not really looking for him to win this golf tournament. So he's one that I would look at who's over 50. I think in the 40s, Sergio Garcia always kind of pops up in these type golf tournaments. He has shown on the Live Golf Tour that he's had a few good finishes this year. I think he could be one you could look at. Phil Mickelson's game's actually gotten a little bit better. He's over 50. He's shown some flashes. So those are a few of just the names that I think that you could see in the top 40 maybe top 20 for Padraig. Other than that, there's not really any guys that are, I'm thinking are going to actually win this golf tournament that are the old guys. We don't have a Tom Watson in this field. We don't have one, where he almost won when Stuart Sink basically stole it from him. I hated not seeing Tom Watson win that one, but I don't really see a Tom Watson type older guy winning it this week.
Yeah, totally fair. What about some more placement bets, right? Pat, there are some guys that I look at this week, like Tommy Fleetwood, who was in the final group back in 2019 with Shane Lowry. Think he could be in contention again this week. Justin Thomas, as you mentioned, maybe you don't have to use your driver this week. That's music to JT's ears if he doesn't have to use the driver. I think both of those guys, maybe good top 20, top 10 looks. Don't know if I'd bet him outright. Anybody in the placement market for you?
Yeah, I've got a few here, and as a matter of fact, one of them is definitely Tommy Fleetwood. I saw him at plus 105 on BetMGM earlier. I think that's a great number for a top 20. The thing about Fleetwood, too, is, look, he just seems to not be able to win. But he's always up here in the top 20s, whether it's a major, just a regular PGA Tour event. He finished second here to Shane Lowry back in 2019. So I think Fleetwood is a great placement bet as a top 20. I think Tyrrell Hatton is another one. I saw him at plus 110. You also got guys like Matthew Fitzpatrick. He was really struggling early in this year and really through most of last year, but we've seen a string of top 20s in a row and really good play out of Fitzy. He's at plus 160 right now, so he's another one you get a pretty good number on. Two more I would say in the top 20 would be Russell Henley. Really love Russell, a guy that's not very long off the tee, but he's pretty accurate, great putter, good scrambler. He's plus 175. A long shot for you, Antoine Rosner, the Frenchman. He's plus 800 as a top 20. I actually like him a lot. He's got a lot of top 20s on the PGA Tour this year. And then I think if you're looking at top 40s, there's a few big names you can look at. One is Hideki. I think Hideki Matsuyama as a top 40, even money, is a very good number for a guy like Hideki in his caliber. And then two more guys that you might not know, but Harry Hall has been playing some excellent golf. He's a British guy. He's even money. And then Marco Pinge is plus 125. He's another guy that's looking pretty good. I think for a top 40. So in those placement bets, those are really my favorite ones that I like this week.
Love it. A lot of great stuff, as always, from our guy Pat Perry at the Tour Junkies. Make sure you're following the Tour Junkies on X at Tour_Junkies. We've got a couple more minutes here with Pat. Again, if you guys have any questions, any golfers that you want to talk about, send them in the comments on Twitch, YouTube, at the BetMGM Network. Pat, we got to talk about the big three, right, on the odds board this week. Scotty, Rory, Rahm. Of those three guys, if you had to plant your flag with one of them, bet one of those guys to win this week, which of those would you take?
I think I did this for the Masters on this show, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take Rory. I think, I like what we saw out of Rory last week. He struggled after his Masters win, and it's really to be expected when, he gets that monkey off his back where he's been trying to win the Masters for so long to win the Grand Slam. He does that, sort of comes off of his game. I think he just got distracted, but now he feels like he's focused again. This golf tournament is in his neck of the woods in Northern Ireland. So I really like Rory between those three. I think he's the one where I would absolutely plant the flag, but don't count out Jon Rahm. I think Jon Rahm's got a little something for us this week. So, he's probably like my 1B. I would put Rory as 1A. And Scotty's kind of been struggling a little bit. He seems really frustrated with his game. So I'm a little worried about Scotty this week. I'd rather take Rory at his number.
Yeah, Scotty and Rory were both plus 500, plus 700 now. BetMGM, Scotty up to plus 550, and Rory is up to plus 750. Pat, give us the card, my friend. You gave us a bunch of placement finishes that you like with a bunch of guys. Who are your outrights that you like for the Open Championship?
Well, we talked about Fleetwood, and I know this is just probably a sucker bet, but I'm going with Fleetwood at 25-1 outright. I like Tyrrell Hatton. I like his number. Sepp Straka, another guy who's just been absolutely fantastic all year long. I've seen some pretty good numbers on him, somewhere around that 50 to 60-1 range. I mentioned Russell Henley, also as a top 20 bet. I like him to win this golf tournament outright. He is definitely one of my favorites. And then I would say the long shot for me is going to be, I did mention Rosner as a top 40, but I think Tom McKibben, also from Northern Ireland, I've seen him around the 150-1 number. He's another guy to look out for. He went over to LIV last year, so you really haven't probably heard a lot from him, but he had a great finish at last week at the LIV event, finished T4. I think Tom McKibben is somebody to look out for as an outright winner at long odds.
Ooh, I like that. All right, a guy to keep an eye on. Pat, before we let you go, we do have a question in the comment. EJP Golf wants to know who your favorite Euro is this week. Is it Rory? Is it Rahm? Would you take somebody else down the board? Maybe if you're betting into that market, who would your favorite European be?
I think it's going to be Rahm. I think I'm going to go with Rahm, even though Rory's the favorite outright. I think if I'm taking a guy that's not from Northern Ireland, outside of that range, it's going to be Rahm for me at 12-1.
Always great having Pat Perry on to break down the major championships. Again, make sure you guys are following the Tour Junkies on X at Tour_Junkies. Pat, always great catching up with you, man. Enjoy the Open. We'll talk again soon.
All right, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Great stuff there from Pat Perry joining us here on Send It In. Let's continue talking the Open Championship. And Pat and I, we are very like-minded with a lot of these golfers at Royal Portrush. As always, on our card, 2 outrights and 3 to 4 top 10, top 20 finishes that we have each week. We'll start with the 2 outrights. I'm with him, Jon Rahm at 12-1. I was listening to Rahm at the podium this morning, and he talked about how in his mind, the Open is the major to win. A lot of people obviously look at the Masters as the #1 event in golf, winning that green jacket. And Rahm's already won one of those, but as a guy who grew up in Spain, wanting to win the Open, he holds that claret jug in high regard, and he wants to win an Open badly. He's in great form, had a pretty good showing at Oakmont at the PGA Championship. So Rahm, I think, has got a good price. I think he's got a great shot at winning this week. I'd look at him at 12-1. And then Russell Henley, a guy who's had a really good season, especially early on in the year, won at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. You're getting him at 50-1. I mean, listen to what Pat was telling you, right? It's about accuracy this week, not distance. It's about scrambling. Guys controlling their golf ball. Russell Henley, checking each and every one of those boxes. So we'll take him at 50-1. Also, give me Rahm and Russ in the top 10 as well. I like both of their numbers. Rahm plus 110 to finish in the top 10. Russ is plus 350. And then how about Justin Thomas? Again, a guy I can't get to the window with to win, even though you're getting a nice number at 50-1. But on a golf course where Justin Thomas doesn't have to use driver, he's one of the best golfers in the world. When he can eliminate that club, he's so inaccurate off the tee, can't find a fairway to save his life. And on a link-style course, when you're dealing with fescue and you're dealing with pop bunkers, last thing you need to be is inaccurate off the tee. If JT can just use woods, use his driving irons, he's going to give himself a great opportunity. He still has one of the best short games in the world, especially with his chipping. If his putting is on this week, Justin Thomas could be a factor. He's never fared really all that well in the Open. I think he's only got like one finish inside the top 15. But this could be the week, especially at this course where he doesn't have to use driver. Keep an eye on Justin Thomas. And then in the top 20, a guy that not a lot of people are talking about this week is Brooks Koepka. I'm going to take him in the top 20. Obviously, Brooks is a 5-time major champion. He's never won the Open before, even though he has spent a little part of his career out on the European Tour. Reason I like Brooks is because he had a nice round and a half at Oakmont before he fell off a little bit on Saturday and Sunday, but it's his caddy, Ricky Elliott. Everybody's talking about how this is a home game for Rory coming back to Northern Ireland. Well, it's also a home game for Ricky Elliott, who grew up right down the road from Royal Portrush as well. Last time these guys played here in 2019, Brooks was picking Ricky's brain for every shot on the course. So having him on the bag is going to be a huge advantage this week. If the game lines up and Brooks is back to being Brooks, I mean, when's the last time you've gotten a 66-1 with Brooks? When's the last time you've gotten a plus 200 for him to finish in the top 20? So I'll take a look at him. And then Adam Scott and Cam Young are going to be the 2 other guys that I like in the top 20 market as well. Adam Scott's been playing some really good golf, gave himself a chance at the U.S. Open, always has been really good at the Open Championship. Really good link-style type golfer. And then Cam Young has played in 3 Open Championships. He's finished in the top 10 in 2 of them. So Cam Young likes this style of golf. Keep an eye out for both of those guys in the top 20 market. I'd also bet Brooks 66-1 and Cam Young at 80-1 along with Jon Rahm and Russell Henley. Then in some of the other markets that I like this week, look at the top Italian, Matteo Monacero's. Just got to beat out 2 other guys. There are only 3 Italians in the field this week. It's Francesco Molinari, who won back at Carnoustie about 6 or 7 years ago, has kind of fallen off the earth. Ever since Tiger won the Masters in 2019 and Frankie went in the water, you've never heard from him again. He shows up at the Open every year because he's a past champion, but he's not in good form. I don't expect Molinari to make the cut or be anywhere close to it. And then Guido Migliozzi is going to be the other one. I kind of think it's between Montecero and Migliozzi. But did you know that Matteo is #1 on the PGA Tour in scrambling? He's got an unbelievable short game. He's fantastic around the greens. That's obviously going to be a big key this week at Royal Portrush. Show +115. Mateo's just got to beat out 3 guys. I'm going to take him as my top Italian. How about a 3-ball tomorrow morning? There's one that caught my eye, and it's going to be one of the marquee groups. Scotty Scheffler against Shane Lowry and Colin Morikawa. Scotty is -110 to shoot a better score than both Shane and Colin in tomorrow's round 1. Shane's the defending champion. That's why he's obviously in this marquee. He's defending champion at this course, I should say, back in 2019 when the Open was last held here. That's why he's in this group with Scotty. Morikawa, obviously a past Open champion, one of the best golfers in the world. But if you know anything about Colin, he always struggles in any type of wind or any type of precipitation, anything like that. The year that he won the Open Championship was the most benign conditions that you'll ever see for an Open. So I don't take any stock into that. If the wind's picking up, if it's raining like it should be tomorrow, I think Morikawa struggles. Lowry has not been in great form here as of late. Scotty, as we know, is just steady Eddie. Likely going to shoot a 1 under, 2 under tomorrow, getting him in -110. I love that look for Scotty. Give me Koepka and Matteo Montecero again for first round leader. Montesero's 170-1. Koepka is 50-1. I like both of those bets. And then a couple of more first round bets I like for tomorrow. Ludwig over Rory in round 1. Rory in 2019 when they played here, quadruple bogey the first hole. He felt so much pressure. And how many times do we talk about Ludwig in these majors is so good in the first round? I think that's a nice price. +130 Ludwig against Rory head-to-head. And then Xander against Morikawa at -115 as well. And then a couple of match bets for the entire tournament. Matt Fitzpatrick over Patrick Cantlay. Pat Perry was talking about Matty Fitz. I like him as well. And then Adam Scott over Keegan Bradley. Keegan, I like him on golf courses where you need that high ball flight. No high ball flight at the Open Championship. That's why I don't like Bryson this week either. So give me Adam Scott over Keegan Bradley.